The warm mashed potatoes turned cold against my fork as 8-year-old Tyler leaned across the mahogany table, gathered saliva in his mouth, and spat directly into my plate. "Dad says you deserve it," he announced with a cruel smile that mirrored his father's. The entire family erupted in laughter. My sister Melissa, my parents, even my teenage nephew joined in. I sat frozen, humiliated as the spit mixed with my Thanksgiving gravy. But what they did not know was that I had been recording everything on my phone for the past 3 months, documenting a much darker family secret. Hey everyone! Before we dive into this shocking family drama, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. If you have ever dealt with toxic family dynamics, you are going to want to stick around for this wild ride. Hit that like button and subscribe, because this story has more twists than a roller coaster. And trust me, the revenge I got was absolutely sweet. Now let me tell you how my perfect family mask finally came crashing down. My name is Aurora Blackwell, and for 28 years, I believed I was part of the perfect American family. Growing up in suburban Connecticut, we were the Johnsons, the family everyone envied. My father, Robert, was a successful investment banker. My mother, Patricia, ran charity galas and hosted elaborate dinner parties. My older sister, Melissa, had married young to her high school sweetheart, Derek, and produced 2 beautiful children who were supposedly the pride of our family. I was always the odd one out, though I could never understand why. While Melissa received praise for her domestic achievements, my master's degree in forensic accounting seemed to annoy rather than impress my parents. When she announced her pregnancies, the family celebrated for weeks. When I graduated summa cum laude from Columbia, my father barely looked up from his newspaper. The dinner incident happened during what was supposed to be a reconciliation. I had been distant from the family for months, working long hours and avoiding their constant criticism about my single status and career focus. Melissa had called me crying, begging me to come to Sunday dinner because family is everything, and she missed her baby sister. I should have known it was a trap. The moment I walked into their McMansion, the atmosphere felt wrong. Derek smirked at me over his beer, making some comment about how I looked tired and stressed from my little job. My mother immediately started her passive-aggressive routine, asking when I was going to settle down like Melissa and give them grandchildren. But it was Tyler's behavior that truly shocked me. This child who used to run to me for hugs now looked at me with pure contempt. During dinner, he kept making snide remarks that seemed far too sophisticated for an 8-year-old. When he asked why I did not have a husband, like normal ladies, the adults all chuckled approvingly. That is when he spat in my food. The laughter that followed was not just cruel, it was coordinated. My father actually applauded Tyler, saying, "That boy knows quality when he sees it." My mother dabbed her eyes with her napkin, giggling about how children say the darndest things. Melissa beamed at her son like he had just recited Shakespeare. But 12-year-old Emma, Tyler's older sister, did not laugh. She looked horrified and kept glancing between me and her parents with an expression I could not quite read. When I excused myself to the bathroom, she followed me. "Aunt Aurora," she whispered urgently, "I need to tell you something important, but not here. They listen to everything." I looked down at this child, this smart, perceptive girl who had always been my favorite, and realized she was genuinely frightened. "What do you mean they listen?" "Uncle Derek has cameras everywhere and microphones. He records everything people say in this house and plays it back later. I have heard him and Mom talking about you. They say terrible things." My blood ran cold. Derek worked in tech security, and I knew he was paranoid about home invasion, but I had never considered that his surveillance system might be turned inward. "Emma, what kind of terrible things?" She looked around nervously. "They call you names, really bad names, and they laugh about how stupid you are for not knowing the truth about your real family. They say you deserve to be miserable because you are not really one of us." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean, not really one of us?" "I do not know exactly, but I heard Mom on the phone with Grandma Patricia last week. She said something about how you were finally getting what you deserved for being a bastard child, and how the family secret was safe because you were too dumb to figure it out." I had to grip the bathroom sink to steady myself. Bastard child. What family secret? My mind raced through years of subtle exclusion, unexplained coldness, and moments where conversation stopped abruptly when I entered a room. "Emma, I need you to do something for me, but it has to be our secret, okay? Do you know where your dad keeps his computer?" She nodded eagerly. "In the basement office, but it is always locked." "Do you know the password?" "He uses the same password for everything Tyler's birthday, plus Emma's birthday, no spaces." "Smart girl." I squeezed her shoulder gently. "I need you to go back to dinner and act normal. Can you do that for me?" She nodded solemnly. "Are you going to find out the truth?" "Yes, sweetheart. I am going to find out everything." When we returned to the dining room, I forced myself to sit down and endure another hour of their psychological torture. Derek regaled the table with stories about deadbeat relatives who thought they deserved family money. My mother made pointed comments about people who put careers before family values. Melissa kept shooting me satisfied glances, like she was watching her favorite movie. But now I was seeing it all differently. This was not random cruelty, this was calculated humiliation. They knew something about me that I did not know about myself, and they were enjoying every moment of my ignorance. Tyler continued his bratty behavior, now emboldened by the earlier positive response. He accidentally knocked over his milk toward my side of the table, then laughed when I had to jump back. When I helped clean it up, he loudly announced that I was being dramatic like always. The adults exchanged those looks again, the knowing smirks that excluded me from some shared understanding. As the evening finally wound down, Derek made a show of walking me to my car. "Aurora," he said with false sincerity, "you know we all love you, right? Family is family no matter what." The emphasis he placed on "no matter what" sent chills down my spine. "Of course," I replied carefully. "Family is everything." "Exactly. And sometimes family has to protect itself, you know. Keep certain information private, for everyone's good." I nodded like I understood, but inside my forensic accountant brain was already working. Derek was threatening me, but he was also confirming that there was indeed information being kept from me, information that somehow threatened the family's stability. As I drove home to my apartment, Emma's words echoed in my head. "You are not really one of us." Combined with Derek's veiled threats, it painted a picture that made my stomach churn. What if I was not Robert Johnson's biological daughter? What if there was some family secret so damaging that they had been systematically destroying my self-esteem to keep me from asking questions? I had spent my entire life believing these people loved me, even if they did not always show it well. But tonight had revealed something much darker. They actively despised me, and they were having fun with my pain. Well, they had picked the wrong person to mess with. I was a forensic accountant who specialized in uncovering hidden assets and financial fraud. If there were family secrets buried somewhere, I would find them. I barely slept that night, my mind racing with questions and dark possibilities. By Monday morning, I had formulated a plan. If my family was hiding something significant enough to warrant years of psychological abuse, I was going to uncover it using every professional skill I possessed. My first stop was my office. As a senior forensic accountant at Morrison & Associates, I had access to databases and investigative tools that most people could only dream of. I started with the basics, running background checks on my immediate family members, looking for inconsistencies in their financial records, and cross-referencing public documents. What I found within the first hour made my coffee grow cold. Robert Johnson, my supposed father, had been involved in a messy paternity case 29 years ago. The records were sealed, but the case number and date aligned perfectly with what would have been my mother's pregnancy with me. My hands trembled as I cross-referenced this with my birth certificate and discovered something that nearly made me fall out of my chair. My birth certificate had been amended twice. The original filing showed a different father's name, Marcus Blackwell. The Second Amendment listed Robert Johnson. But here was the kicker: the Second Amendment had been filed when I was 7 years old, not as an infant. This suggested that Robert had legally adopted me years after my birth, not that he was my biological father. But who was Marcus Blackwell, and why had this information been hidden from me my entire life? I dug deeper into Marcus Blackwell's records and felt my world shift beneath me. He had died in a car accident when I was 6 months old, but not before establishing a substantial trust fund for his infant daughter, me. The trust was worth over $2 million and had been growing with compound interest for nearly 3 decades. I was potentially worth close to $8 million, and I had never known it existed. The trust documents revealed even more shocking information. Marcus Blackwell had been incredibly wealthy, owning several successful tech companies in the early internet boom. He had also been married to someone else when I was conceived, someone named Linda Blackwell, who was still alive and living in California. My head spun with implications. If Marcus was my real father, then Patricia had been having an affair. If Robert knew about the trust fund but never told me, then my family had been stealing from me for decades. And if they had been deliberately keeping me ignorant and isolated to maintain control over this money. I needed more information, but I had to be careful. If Derek really was surveilling his house, as Emma suggested, I could not risk him discovering my investigation. That evening, I drove to Emma's school and waited by the playground where I knew she had after-school activities. When she saw me, her face lit up, but she quickly looked around nervously. "Aunt Aurora, what are you doing here?" "I need your help with something, sweetheart. But first, I need you to know that everything you told me yesterday was very important, and I believe you. I think your parents have been keeping secrets from me, and I am trying to find out what they are." Emma's expression grew serious beyond her years. "I knew it. I have been watching them, and they act really weird whenever your name comes up. Plus, I found something in Dad's office that I think you should see." My heart raced. "What did you find?" "A file with your name on it. It has lots of papers and some old pictures. There was also a letter that looked really official. I could not read all of it because the words were hard, but I saw numbers with $signs. Bingo. Emma, would you be able to get that file for me? I know it is risky, but I already took pictures," she interrupted, pulling out a phone I did not know she had. "I have been saving money to buy this for months because I knew something weird was happening, and I wanted to help you. Mom and Dad think it is just a toy phone." This 12-year-old was smarter than most adults I knew. She scrolled through her photos and showed me images that made my breath catch. There was the trust fund documentation clearly showing annual statements that had been sent to Robert Johnson as my guardian. There were legal documents related to my adoption, and there were photographs, pictures of me as a baby with a man who definitely was not Robert Johnson. The man in the photos looked exactly like me. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same smile. Below one photo, someone had written, "Aurora and Daddy Marcus, 6 months old." "Emma, this is incredible evidence, but I need the actual documents. Do you think you could get them for me?" She nodded eagerly. "Dad is going out of town for work next week, and Mom always takes Tyler to soccer practice on Wednesday evenings. I could get everything then." "It is dangerous, sweetheart. If they caught you—" "Aunt Aurora," she said firmly, "they have been mean to you my whole life, and I never understood why. But now I know they are stealing from you, and that is wrong. My friend Sarah's mom says that when adults steal money from kids, they go to jail. I want them to go to jail." The fierce determination in her voice reminded me so much of myself at that age. But I also felt a crushing responsibility not to put this child in danger. "Okay, but we do this my way. I am going to give you my phone number, and I want you to text me if anything feels unsafe. If your parents suspect anything, you forget about this whole conversation. Understand?" She nodded solemnly and saved my number in her phone under Pizza Place, so it would not look suspicious. Over the next few days, I continued my investigation from the professional side. I contacted Linda Blackwell in California and nearly cried when she immediately recognized my name. "Aurora. Oh my God, I have been trying to find you for years. Your father made me promise to look out for you. But when you never contacted the trust administrators, I started to worry that something had happened to you. Linda, I need to know everything. I just found out about Marcus 3 days ago." The conversation that followed lasted 2 hours and left me emotionally devastated, but also furiously motivated. Marcus had been Linda's husband when he met my mother at a business conference. Patricia had pursued him aggressively, knowing he was wealthy and successful. When she became pregnant, she had demanded money to keep quiet about the affair. Marcus, being an honorable man, had insisted on setting up the trust fund for his child and wanted to be part of my life. But Patricia had other plans. She convinced Robert to marry her quickly and claim me as his own, then spent years poisoning Marcus against me with lies about how I was better off in a stable two-parent household. The car accident that killed Marcus had not been entirely accidental, according to Linda. He had been driving to Connecticut to see me when he was hit by a drunk driver. Linda had always suspected that Patricia had timed their fight about visitation to ensure Marcus would be driving angry and distracted. "Aurora," Linda said through tears, "your father loved you so much. He has pictures of you all over his office that I kept exactly as he left it. You have his eyes, his stubborn streak, and from what I can tell, his brilliant mind. He would be so proud of the woman you have become." By the time I hung up, I knew exactly what I was dealing with. My family had not just been emotionally abusing me, they had been committing financial fraud on a massive scale, stealing money that rightfully belonged to me for almost 3 decades. But I needed concrete proof before I could take action, and that meant Wednesday evening could not come fast enough. Wednesday evening arrived with the weight of destiny. Emma had texted me earlier using our coded system, "Pizza delivery confirmed for 7:30. Which meant Derek was definitely out of town, and Melissa had left for Tyler's soccer practice right on schedule. I parked 3 blocks away from the house and walked through the neighborhood, my heart pounding with each step. Emma met me at the back gate, her face pale but determined. "Are you sure about this, sweetheart?" I whispered as she led me through the darkened backyard. "I am sure," she replied with more conviction than most adults could muster. "I found more stuff yesterday. Really bad stuff." She had already disabled the motion sensor lights and knew exactly which security cameras had blind spots. For a 12-year-old, her operational security was impressive and slightly terrifying. Inside Derek's basement office, Emma handed me a flashlight and pointed to a large filing cabinet. "That is where all the Aurora files are. But Aunt Aurora, I need to show you something else first." She led me to Derek's computer and typed in the password she had memorized. The screen illuminated to reveal a desktop filled with folders labeled with dates going back years. Emma clicked on one marked Aurora Surveillance 2023. What I saw made my stomach lurch. There were hundreds of video files and audio recordings, all featuring me. Derek had been secretly recording me during family gatherings, capturing my reactions to their insults and humiliation. Worse, there were files labeled Aurora phone calls and Aurora work conversations. "Emma, how did he get recordings of my phone calls?" "He cloned your phone somehow. I heard him bragging to Mom about it. He said you were too stupid to notice that your battery was draining faster." That explained so much, the random dead battery issues I had been having, the strange echoes on some calls, the way my family sometimes seemed to know things about my life that I had never told them. But the surveillance was just the beginning. Emma opened the filing cabinet and pulled out a thick folder marked Trust Fund Management. Inside were bank statements, legal documents, and correspondence that painted a picture of systematic theft spanning decades. Robert and Patricia had been receiving quarterly distributions from Marcus's trust fund money that was legally mine. They had been claiming that the funds were for my care and education, but instead of spending it on me, they had been funneling it into their own accounts and investments. My college tuition that I thought they had generously paid for, that had come from my own trust fund. The family vacations I was never invited on, funded with my inheritance. The down payment on Melissa and Derek's house, my money. But the most damning evidence was in a folder labeled Legal Strategy. Inside were emails between my parents, Derek, and a family attorney discussing how to permanently hide the trust fund from me. The plan was elaborate and cruel, keep me emotionally destabilized and financially dependent while slowly draining the trust fund into accounts I could never trace. One email from Derek to the attorney made my hands shake with rage. "Aurora is too focused on her career to ask family questions, and we have successfully convinced her that she is the problem in family relationships. As long as we maintain psychological pressure and social isolation, she should never investigate her background. The surveillance confirms she has no suspicious activities or relationships that could expose our situation. And another email from my mother was even worse. We need to increase the pressure on Aurora to prevent her from forming outside relationships that might encourage her to ask questions about her childhood. Derek's suggestion about using Tyler to humiliate her at family gatherings is working well. She is becoming more withdrawn and easier to control. They had been using an 8-year-old child as a weapon against me. Emma watched my face as I read her expression, filled with adult-level understanding of the situation's gravity. "Aunt Aurora, there is more. Look at this." She handed me a folder I had missed one labeled, Melissa Trust Access. Inside were documents showing that my sister had been granted power of attorney over my trust fund in the event of my mental incapacitation or death. My blood turned to ice. "Emma, what does this mean exactly?" "I think it means that if something bad happened to you, Aunt Melissa would get all your money. And look at this." And she showed me a document that made my vision blur. It was a psychiatric evaluation report, a fake one claiming that I showed signs of severe depression, social isolation, and potential self-harm tendencies. The report was signed by a Dr. Elizabeth Hartman, who, according to a quick internet search on Derek's computer, did not exist. They were building a case to have me declared mentally incompetent. "Emma, how long have they been planning this?" "I think for a long time. I found these papers last year, but I did not understand what they meant then. But yesterday, I heard Mom on the phone with someone, and she said they needed to accelerate the timeline because you were asking too many questions at Sunday dinner." The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The increased hostility, the public humiliation, the surveillance they were trying to push me toward a mental breakdown that would justify their fake psychiatric evaluation. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had involved Emma in their psychological warfare, and she was smart enough to recognize abuse when she saw it. "Sweetheart, I need to take pictures of all these documents, and then we need to get out of here. Do you know if your dad has any other hiding places?" Emma nodded and led me to a hidden safe behind a false panel in the wall. She had watched Derek open it countless times and had memorized the combination. Inside were more legal documents, including my original birth certificate with Marcus Blackwell's name and a handwritten letter from Marcus to me that I was never supposed to see. "My dearest Aurora," the letter began, "if you are reading this, then something has happened to me before I could tell you how much I love you. You are the brightest light in my world, and I have set up this trust fund to ensure that you will always be protected and free to pursue your dreams. Never let anyone make you feel small or unworthy. You come from a family of fighters and dreamers, and you have more strength than you know." I had to bite my lip to keep from sobbing. This man, my real father, had loved me completely, while the people who raised me had spent 30 years systematically destroying my sense of self-worth. "Aunt Aurora," Emma whispered urgently, "we need to go. Mom just texted that practice is ending early." We quickly photographed everything, returned the documents to their hiding places, and slipped out of the house just as headlights appeared in the driveway. My heart was racing as we made it to the back gate, but we had done it. Emma hugged me tightly before I left. "What happens next?" "Next, I make sure you are safe, and then I make sure your parents face consequences for what they have done. Emma, you saved my life tonight. I want you to know that." "Are you going to be okay, Aunt Aurora?" "More than okay, sweetheart. I am going to be free." As I drove home with a memory card full of evidence that would destroy my family's comfortable lies, I felt something I had not experienced in years: genuine hope. They had thought they were dealing with a broken, isolated woman who would never fight back. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. But first, I needed to ensure Emma's safety. If my family was willing to use surveillance and fake psychiatric evaluations against me, I could not risk them retaliating against a 12-year-old who had helped expose them. I had 48 hours before Derek returned from his business trip. That was enough time to contact Linda Blackwell's attorney in California, file the necessary legal documents to reclaim my trust fund, and arrange for Emma's protection. The war was just beginning, and for the first time in my life, I was fighting on the right side. Thursday morning, I walked into the offices of Blackwell & Associates, the law firm that Linda had recommended, carrying a briefcase full of evidence that would change everything. Attorney Sarah Chen reviewed my documentation with the methodical precision of someone who had seen financial fraud before, but even she seemed stunned by the scope of the deception. "Aurora, this is one of the most comprehensive cases of trust fund embezzlement I have encountered," she said, spreading the photographs across her conference table. "The surveillance alone constitutes multiple felonies. We can file criminal charges and civil suits simultaneously." "How long will this take?" I asked, thinking about Emma's safety. "With evidence this solid, we can have emergency injunctions filed today. Your trust fund will be frozen within hours, preventing any further withdrawals. Criminal charges will follow by Monday." I authorized her to proceed with everything. By noon, legal papers were being served at my parents' house, Derek's office, and Melissa's home. The injunctions froze not only my trust fund, but also all accounts that had received transfers from it over the past decade. My phone started ringing immediately. The first call came from my mother, her voice shaking with what sounded like genuine panic. "Aurora, honey, there has been some terrible mistake. Lawyers are here saying we stole money from you, but that is impossible. We have always taken care of you." "Patricia," I said, using her first name deliberately, "I know everything. I know about Marcus Blackwell. I know about the trust fund. I know about the surveillance. And I know about the fake psychiatric evaluation you were planning to use against me." The silence on the other end stretched for nearly 30 seconds. When she spoke again, her voice had transformed from panicked mother to cold strategist. "You little bitch. After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us. Robert raised you as his own daughter when your real father abandoned you. Marcus did not abandon me. You kept him away from me, and you have been stealing his money for 30 years. That money was compensation for the burden of raising another man's bastard child. Do you have any idea what we sacrificed for you?" The mask was finally off. "You sacrificed nothing, Patricia. You saw an opportunity to steal millions of dollars and you took it, but it is over now." She hung up, but the calls kept coming. Robert tried the wounded father approach, claiming he had only wanted to protect me from the pain of knowing the truth. Melissa attempted manipulation, sobbing about how this would destroy the children's lives and begging me to think about family. But it was Derek's call that revealed just how dangerous they had become. "Aurora." His voice was eerily calm. "You need to understand that you are making a very serious mistake. There are things you do not know, consequences you have not considered. Emma, for instance, is a sweet girl who loves her aunt very much. It would be tragic if something happened to damage that relationship." The threat was clear. "Derek, if you touch that child—" "I do not need to touch anyone, Aurora. I just need to show the family court system evidence of how an unstable woman manipulated a vulnerable child into betraying her own parents. Emma's phone records show extensive contact with you. Her search history shows research into legal terms she should not even know. A good attorney could paint a very concerning picture." My blood ran cold. He was threatening to use Emma's help against her, potentially getting her removed from Melissa's custody and placed in foster care. "You have 24 hours to withdraw your legal complaints," Derek continued. "Otherwise, Emma pays the price for your selfishness." But Derek had made a fatal error. He had just made a recorded threat against a minor while trying to obstruct a federal investigation. Sarah Chen had advised me to record all family communications, and Derek's call had been captured on a device that would make his words admissible in court. Within 2 hours, Derek was arrested at his office on charges of witness intimidation and child endangerment. The arrest was spectacular. His co-workers watched as federal agents escorted him out in handcuffs while seizing his computers and files. Emma called me that evening from her friend Sarah's house, where Melissa had dropped her after Derek's arrest created chaos at home. "Aunt Aurora, Mom is really angry. She keeps saying you ruined everything and that Dad might go to prison because of you. Emma, none of this is your fault, and I need you to know that you are going to be safe. I have talked to some very good lawyers, and they are going to make sure nothing bad happens to you." "What about Mom and Tyler? Tyler does not understand what is happening, and he keeps crying. My heart broke for both children. Tyler had been weaponized against me, but he was still just an 8-year-old boy whose world was falling apart. I am going to make sure Tyler is okay too, sweetheart. But right now, I need you to stay at Sarah's house until the lawyers can sort everything out. Aunt Aurora. Are you really rich like Dad said? I almost laughed despite everything. Yes, Emma, I am really rich. And when this is all over, I am going to use some of that money to make sure you and Tyler have everything you need. Even if Mom and Dad go to jail, even then, you are my family, Emma, the real kind of family that protects each other. By Friday evening, the local news had picked up the story. Prominent Connecticut family accused of decades-long trust fund fraud ran as the lead story on 3 different stations. The details were salacious enough to attract attention, but it was the surveillance footage that really captured public interest. Derek had been so confident in his system that he had saved everything, including recordings of family meetings where they discussed their plans to destroy my mental health. The audio of my 8-year-old nephew being coached to humiliate me went viral on social media, generating outrage from parents across the country. My father tried one last desperate gambit, showing up at my apartment Saturday morning with tears streaming down his face. Aurora, please. I know we made mistakes, but we can fix this. I will pay back every penny. We can be a real family. Robert, we were never a real family. A real family does not systematically abuse one of their children for financial gain. I loved you like my own daughter. No, you did not. You tolerated me because keeping me ignorant and isolated was profitable. But you made one crucial mistake. You involved Emma in your cruelty. That little girl showed me more genuine love and loyalty in 1 week than you people showed me in 30 years. He left without another word, and I never saw him again. The final domino fell on Sunday when the FBI raided Derek's tech company and discovered that his surveillance operation extended far beyond just me. He had been illegally monitoring employees' clients and competitors, selling corporate secrets and personal information to the highest bidders. What had started as a family trust fund case had uncovered a massive criminal enterprise. Derek was looking at federal prison time that would likely keep him locked up for decades. The courtroom was packed on the day of the sentencing hearing. 3 months of investigation had revealed the full scope of the conspiracy, and the media attention had turned my case into a national story about family betrayal and financial exploitation. Derek faced the most serious charges: trust fund embezzlement surveillance crimes, witness intimidation, child endangerment, and the corporate espionage charges that had emerged from the FBI investigation. His attorney had tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the evidence was so overwhelming that prosecutors refused to consider anything less than maximum sentences. I sat in the front row, wearing a navy blue suit that Marcus's money had finally allowed me to buy without guilt. Linda Blackwell had flown in from California to support me, and her presence felt like having a real mother for the first time in my life. Derek Thompson, Judge Martinez began, "You have been convicted of orchestrating one of the most elaborate and psychologically cruel financial schemes this court has encountered. You did not simply steal money, you systematically destroyed a young woman's sense of self-worth to facilitate your crimes." Derek stood ramrod straight, but I could see his hands shaking. His fall had been spectacular, from respected tech executive to federal prisoner in less than 4 months. The evidence shows that you manipulated family relationships, exploited children, and violated dozens of federal privacy laws to maintain your criminal enterprise. Your actions caused immeasurable psychological damage to the victim and turned your own children into unwitting participants in abuse. The judge sentenced Derek to 15 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for the first 8 years. The courtroom erupted in whispers, but Derek showed no emotion. Even in defeat, he remained coldly calculating. My parents faced their own reckoning. Robert received 5 years in minimum security prison for his role in the trust fund fraud, while Patricia got 3 years plus substantial community service. Their sentences were lighter because they had cooperated with investigators once Derek's surveillance operation was exposed, but their lives were effectively over. The family home was seized to pay restitution, their retirement accounts were frozen, and their social standing in the community had been completely destroyed. Robert's investment firm had fired him immediately when the charges were filed, and Patricia's charity work had evaporated when her colleagues learned about the surveillance evidence. But it was Melissa's situation that proved most complex and heartbreaking. She had genuinely believed that the trust fund money belonged to the family collectively. Derek had convinced her that I was being ungrateful and selfish for questioning family decisions, and she had participated in the psychological abuse because she thought it was justified. When the truth came out, her world collapsed. "Aurora," she said during a court recess, "I need you to know that I never understood what Derek was really doing. I thought we were just trying to teach you to be more grateful and family-focused." I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw someone who had been manipulated almost as extensively as I had been. Derek had isolated her from outside perspectives, controlled her information sources, and gradually normalized increasingly cruel behavior. "Melissa, I know you were a victim too, but you still made choices. You still participated in hurting me. I know, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. But Aurora, I need to ask you something, and I know I have no right to ask for anything." She was crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. "Emma and Tyler need stability. Derek is going to prison, and I am probably going to lose the house. I am facing criminal charges myself, even though they are minor compared to his." "What are you asking me, Melissa? Would you consider taking custody of Emma? She adores you, and you are the only stable family she has left. I know it is asking too much after what we did to you, but she does not deserve to suffer for our mistakes." The request hit me like a physical blow. Take custody of Emma. The idea was both terrifying and deeply appealing. That little girl had shown more courage and loyalty than any adult in my life, but raising a 12-year-old was an enormous responsibility. What about Tyler? "Tyler will stay with me if I can avoid prison time. My attorney thinks I might get probation because I was clearly being manipulated by Derek. But Emma specifically asked if she could live with you. She said you are the only adult who ever made her feel safe." I thought about Emma's fierce determination to help me find the truth, her willingness to risk her own safety to expose her parents' crimes, and the way she had looked at me with such trust and affection. "I need to talk to Emma about this myself. But Melissa, if she wants to live with me, and if the court approves it, then yes, I will take custody of her." The relief on Melissa's face was profound. "Thank you, Aurora. I know I do not deserve your kindness, but thank you." 3 weeks later, Emma moved into my apartment with 2 suitcases and her secret phone that had started our entire investigation. The transition was surprisingly smooth. She was brilliant, adaptable, and seemed genuinely excited about the prospect of a new life. "Aunt Aurora," she said on her first night, "will I be able to visit Tyler sometimes?" "Of course, sweetheart. Tyler is your brother, and that relationship is important." "What about Mom? Will she go to prison?" "Your mom got probationary time, which means she will not go to prison as long as she follows certain rules. She can visit you whenever you want to see her." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "I love Mom, but I do not think she knows how to take care of people very well. Derek was really good at making everyone think his ideas were normal." The wisdom in that statement from a 12-year-old was staggering. "Emma, you saved my life. You know that, right? If you had not been brave enough to help me, they would have succeeded in stealing everything my real father left for me." "I know," she said matter-of-factly, "but you saved my life too. Before you started investigating, I thought families were supposed to be mean to each other sometimes. Now I know that real families protect each other." That night, as Emma slept safely in her new bedroom, I sat in my living room thinking about the strange turns life can take. 6 months earlier, I had been isolated, manipulated, and slowly being driven toward a mental breakdown by people who were supposed to love me. Now I had reclaimed my inheritance, exposed a criminal conspiracy, and gained a daughter who was smarter and braver than most adults I knew. Marcus Blackwell's trust fund had done exactly what he intended. It had given me the freedom and resources to build the life I deserved. But more importantly, it had brought Emma into my life, and she had given me something even more valuable than money, genuine family love: 1 year later, I stood in the kitchen of our new house, a beautiful colonial in a safe neighborhood with excellent schools, watching Emma help Tyler make pancakes during his weekend visit. The sight of them laughing together, flour dusting their hair and syrup, somehow ending up on the ceiling, filled me with a contentment I had never known was possible. The legal battles were finally over. Derek remained in federal prison and would not be eligible for parole for 7 more years. My parents had served their time and disappeared to a small apartment in Florida, apparently too ashamed to maintain contact with their former social circle. They had sent Emma a birthday card with no return address, but made no attempt to contact me. Melissa had successfully completed her probation and was slowly rebuilding her relationship with both children. The family therapy sessions had helped her understand how Derek's manipulation had warped her judgment, and she was working hard to become the mother Emma and Tyler deserved. "Aunt Aurora," Tyler called out, using the title that still made my heart sing. "Emma says you are really my cousin, not my aunt. Is that true?" I exchanged a glance with Emma, who nodded encouragingly. We had decided that Tyler was old enough to understand a simplified version of the truth. "That is right, buddy. My real daddy was not the same person as Grandpa Robert. That makes me your cousin, but I love being your aunt, too." Tyler considered this with the serious concentration that 8-year-olds bring to important revelations. "So you are like a bonus family member." "Exactly like a bonus family member." "Cool. Can bonus family members help with homework?" Emma laughed. "Tyler Aurora already helps with your homework every time you visit." "I know, but now it is official." The normalcy of this conversation, the easy affection, the silly questions, the complete absence of underlying cruelty still amazed me. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Later that evening, after Tyler had been picked up by Melissa and Emma was working on a school project, I received a call that brought everything full circle. "Aurora. This is Detective Williams from the Connecticut State Police Financial Crimes Unit. I wanted to let you know that we have just arrested 3 individuals connected to Derek Thompson's surveillance operation." It turned out that Derek's criminal enterprise had been much larger than anyone initially realized. The FBI investigation had uncovered a network of corporate executives who had been paying Derek to spy on their competitors' employees and even their own family members. The surveillance techniques he had perfected while monitoring me had been his prototype for a much more ambitious criminal operation. "One of the arrested individuals specifically mentioned your case as inspiration for expanding their own family surveillance activities," Detective Williams continued. "Your willingness to come forward and prosecute may have prevented dozens of other families from experiencing similar abuse." After I hung up, I sat quietly in my living room, thinking about the ripple effects of courage. Emma's bravery in helping me had not only saved my life, it had potentially saved countless other families from manipulation and exploitation. "Aurora." Emma appeared in the doorway, homework finished. "Everything okay?" "Everything is perfect, sweetheart. I was just thinking about how brave you were a year ago." She flopped down on the couch next to me with the casual confidence of a teenager who knew she was loved and safe. "I was not really brave. I was mostly scared." "Being brave does not mean you are not scared, Emma. It means you do the right thing, even when you are terrified." "Then you were brave too, when you decided to investigate even though you knew they might try to hurt you." "We were brave together." Emma smiled and curled up against my side, something she had never felt safe doing in her previous home. "Aurora, do you think Marcus, my real grandfather, would be proud of how things turned out?" The question made my eyes well up. I think Marcus would be amazed by both of us. He wanted me to be free and strong, and he would love knowing that his money helped me build a real family with you. And he would probably think Derek going to prison was pretty satisfying. I laughed despite the emotional moment. "Emma Christine Blackwell, where did you learn to be so bloodthirsty?" "From you," she replied cheerfully. "You taught me that justice is important even when it is hard." She was right. The pursuit of justice had been difficult, emotionally exhausting, and sometimes painful. Watching my sister struggle with the consequences of her choices, seeing Tyler confused and hurt by his father's imprisonment dealing with the media attention and public scrutiny, none of it had been easy. But it had been necessary. Derek and my parents had spent decades believing they could manipulate and exploit people without consequences. They had counted on their victims being too isolated, too damaged, or too afraid to fight back. They had been wrong. The trust fund that Marcus established had grown to over $12 million, enough to ensure that Emma and I would never face financial insecurity. But more importantly, it had given us the resources to fight back against people who thought they could steal our futures. Emma was thriving in her new school, making friends easily, and excelling academically. She had joined the debate team and the student government channels for her natural leadership abilities that were much healthier than investigating family crimes. Tyler was also doing well, splitting his time between Melissa's apartment and our house. He had adjusted to his father's absence with the resilience that children often display, and his relationship with both Emma and me continued to grow stronger. Most surprisingly, Linda Blackwell had become a regular presence in our lives. She visited every few months, sharing stories about Marcus and helping me understand the family history I had been denied. Emma adored her Grandma Linda and had even started learning to cook some of Marcus's favorite recipes. "You know what the best part is?" Emma said as we prepared for bed. "Tyler does not spit in people's food anymore." I burst out laughing. "That is definitely an improvement." "He asked me yesterday if he should apologize to you for that dinner. I told him that you already forgave him because he was just a little kid who did not know better." "You told him exactly the right thing." "I know. I am very wise for my age." As I tucked Emma into bed, she grabbed my hand. "Aurora, I know I say this a lot, but thank you for fighting for us, for me and Tyler and even Mom." "Thank you for fighting with me, sweetheart. I could not have done any of this alone." "We make a good team. The best team." After Emma fell asleep, I sat at my computer to write in the journal that my therapist had suggested. Processing the trauma of family betrayal was an ongoing project, but each day brought more healing and less anger. Tonight, I wrote, "1 year ago, I thought family meant tolerating cruelty because blood relationships required loyalty. Today, I know that real family means choosing to protect and nurture each other every single day. Emma taught me that love is not about obligation, it is about courage." The journal entry reminded me of something Marcus had written in his letter. "You come from a family of fighters and dreamers." He had been right, but he could not have known that the family I would build would be even stronger than the one I inherited. Derek had tried to destroy my sense of self-worth, but his cruelty had ultimately led me to Emma, who showed me what unconditional love actually looked like. My parents had tried to keep me isolated and dependent, but their abuse had motivated me to build the kind of family I had always deserved. Sometimes the best revenge is not getting even, it is building something beautiful from the wreckage of other people's cruelty. Emma and I had done exactly that. The story of my fake family's betrayal had ended with their destruction, but the story of my real family was just beginning. And this time I was writing it myself. So here is my question for all of you watching. Have you ever discovered that the people you trusted most were working against you? How did you find the courage to fight back, and what did you build from the ashes of that betrayal? I want to hear your stories in the comments, because I have learned that sharing our experiences helps others find their own strength. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life family drama stories. Share this with someone who might need to hear that they deserve better than toxic family relationships. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we inherit. Until next time, keep fighting for the love and respect you deserve, and never let anyone convince you that abuse is normal just because it comes from relatives.